There are signs we carry, signs etched into our skin long before we ever understood what they meant. Most people ignore them. They think they're accidents, birthmarks, creases, scars, lines that mean nothing. But they're wrong, because some of us were born marked. Marked by something that cannot be explained by biology, marked by a force that reaches beyond time and blood. And though many are called chosen, only 1% carry the visible confirmation of their spiritual contract. They carry it in their hands. Yes, in the lines of the palm, in symbols that appear like burns, like geometry, like codes, sometimes curved, sometimes crossed, sometimes ancient, but always there, not as random but as revelation. And if you've ever looked at your hands and felt a strange awareness, if you've ever stared at those lines and wondered why they look different from others, you're not imagining it. You're remembering, because the hands of the 1% don't lie. They whisper of something sacred, a mission you didn't choose, but were chosen for, a connection to something beyond logic, and a destiny that cannot be escaped. But here's the problem. No one ever taught you how to read them. No one ever told you why your hands burn in certain moments, why they pulse around certain people, why they feel like they're carrying something you can't see, but can't deny. That's because they were never meant to tell you. Because if you knew what your hands carry, you'd stop begging, you'd stop chasing, you'd stop hiding, you'd start becoming. The system fears marked men, because a man who knows he was sealed before he was born cannot be broken. And I know this because I was marked too. Long before I understood. Long before I awakened. I carried symbols in my palms, ignored them, explained them away, dismissed them, until life forced me to remember. And now I'm here, not to convince you, but to remind you. If your hands hold something strange, something sacred, it's not a coincidence. It's a message. And if you stay with me until the end of this transmission, you'll finally understand what it means, what these marks are, why you were chosen, and how to awaken the power sealed inside your own skin. But before we go further, let me ask you one thing, a question only you can answer. Have you ever looked at your hands and known they were not ordinary? If yes, then type in the comments below, I have the mark. Let that be your sign to the universe. Let the unseen forces see your acknowledgement. Let your hands bear witness to what your soul has always known. And if this is already speaking to something deep inside of you, if you feel that sacred tremor in your chest, then join the circle. We are gathering the 90,000 marked souls across this world. Subscribe now. Not just to follow, but to step into the remembrance of who you were before the forgetting. This isn't content. This is a message, and if you're still here, it means it was meant for you. Now let's begin with the first truth. Why only 1% of the chosen carry these sacred marks, and what sets them apart from all the rest. Not all chosen are the same. Some are called by inner voice, others are called by circumstance. But a few, a rare, silent few, are called by the mark. The ones whose bodies didn't just agree to the mission, they were branded by it, and the mark wasn't placed on the forehead, nor on the chest, nor hidden beneath robes or relics. It was placed where the soul meets the world, in the hands, because the hands are the instruments of fate. They create, they destroy, they bless, they hold, they carry. And so, when the divine seals a contract with a soul before birth, it is often in the palms that the evidence is left. Some call it superstition. Some call it coincidence. But you know, deep down, those lines are not random. They form patterns, symbols, sometimes shapes that resemble eyes, crosses, triangles, ancient letters, or signs that no human language can fully interpret. But the spirit can, because the markings aren't there to be explained. They are there to be remembered. This is why you've always felt different when looking at your hands, why you've hidden them, or stared at them too long, or felt that strange electricity run through them during moments of emotion, prayer, desire, or pain. It wasn't just in your mind. It was the mark recognizing itself. Only 1% carry this. not because they are better, but because their role is heavier. Their initiation is deeper. Their calling is irreversible. You may have tried to ignore it, to play small, to live normal, but the mark didn't fade, because it wasn't given to be erased. It was placed there to guide you, to haunt you with truth, until you finally return to your path. And what separates the 1% from the rest isn't just the physical sign. It's the weight that comes with it. Because to carry the mark is to live with constant friction. The world will never feel like home. People won't understand you. Your relationships will test you. Your silence will disturb others. Why? Because the mark carries vibration. Even when you don't speak, your hands radiate. They emit something ancient, a frequency only the awake can feel, and only the brave can face. This is why some women have been drawn to you without understanding why. Why others avoided your touch like it burned. Why children stared at you. Why healers respected you even in silence, because the body knows, the spirit recognizes, the mark transmits, and once it is seen, there is no going back. These marks are not scars. They are not birth defects. They are not products of fate, chance, or even genetics. They are imprints, evidence of something you agreed to long before. You had a name because your soul made a promise, not to a man, not to a system, but to the divine itself. And when a soul promises to walk a path few would dare to touch, to carry wisdom through darkness, to awaken the sacred in others through presence, to remember truth in a world built on forgetting, a mark is left upon the body so that the soul, once embodied, would not forget. Not everyone makes this promise. Most souls choose comfort. They choose learning, growing, exploring. But the marked souls, they choose service. They choose fire. They choose burden. They choose to carry light through corridors no one else dares to enter. And because the path would be hard, the divine left them with a message. A reminder carved not in stone, but in flesh, etched into the hands that would one day touch the world again. That's why your marks have always felt strange, familiar, alive, because they are not just skin. They are language, codes you left, for yourself, triggers to awaken the memory sleeping within you. Have you ever traced those lines with your fingers? Felt a pull towards certain symbols? Noticed how one hand feels different from the other? This is not imagination. This is memory. The marks awaken when it's time, and time is never about clocks. It's about readiness. Your marks may have pulsed during grief, burned during love, activated in silence. They respond to your frequency. And when you get close to truth, they vibrate, because they are seals of alignment. They open when you are near your path, and they close when you drift away. That's why people with sacred marks often feel lost in early life, disconnected, unseen, as if they were waiting for something to activate, as if the world around them was too small, too loud, too hollow. It's because the mark speaks a language the world doesn't teach. It belongs to another order, a priesthood of the unseen, a covenant with the timeless. So if your hands bear something strange, something that no one else seems to understand, don't hide it, don't dismiss it, decode it, because those marks are more than skin. They are the signature of your soul's commitment, and they don't appear in 99% of people. Because 99% didn't make the same vow you did. You didn't come here to be normal. You came here to remember. But what happens to the marked ones when they try to live as if they were unmarked? What happens when a soul with a sacred agreement tries to silence its own hands? In the next chapter, we face the price of denying the path you were born to walk. There is no pain greater than that of the marked soul who pretends to be unmarked. Because the deeper your calling, the more violent your forgetting becomes, and the more sacred your mission, the more it aches when you live outside of it. Those with sacred marks don't suffer like others. Their wounds cut deeper, their silence feels heavier, their loneliness isn't just emotional, it's existential. Why? Because when you are born with a sacred agreement, your entire being is wired for alignment. Your hands are not just hands. They are instruments of purpose. And when that purpose is denied, they begin to ache. Some feel it as anxiety, others as depression. Some lose interest in the world, others attract chaos, conflict, or sickness. But underneath all of it, there is one truth pulsing. You are not where your soul wants to be, because your hands know. Your skin knows, your dreams know, even your breath knows, when you're walking away from the path you were sealed for. That's why things feel off, why nothing satisfies, why relationships feel empty, why your body rebels against routines everyone else seems to accept. You were not made for the noise. You were made for the sacred current beneath the noise, and when the marked ones try to be like everyone else, they feel like ghosts, present, but never really here. It's not arrogance, it's resonance. The world they're trying to blend into was never designed for them, because their blueprint belongs to another dimension. And this is not romanticism. It's responsibility. To carry the mark is to carry weight, a holy burden, a frequency that refuses to be silenced. You can try, you can distract, you can numb, but eventually it will break through, sometimes softly, through dreams, symbols, whispers. Other times, violently, through crisis, collapse, or loss, but always with one purpose: to bring you back to your agreement, because the mark is not decoration. It's not mythology. It's a living covenant, and it will call to you until the day you answer or leave this life unfinished. So if you've been suffering in ways that make no sense, if your inner pain feels deeper than the life around you can justify, if you've looked at your hands and felt like they were screaming something only you could hear, it's because your soul is not in rebellion, it's in mourning. It's mourning the distance between who you've become and who you were sent here to be. But here's the sacred truth. It's not too late. You can return, not with effort, but with remembrance. The pain is not a punishment, it's a summons, a sacred echo of a promise waiting to be fulfilled. There is a shift that cannot be faked, a subtle change in how you walk, how you breathe, how you enter a room, how you touch the world. It doesn't come from trying, it doesn't come from pretending. It comes the moment you stop running and say, yes, yes to the mark, yes to the burden, yes to the mission, yes to the power pulsing beneath your skin. And when that yes happens, the frequency rises, not just metaphorically, literally, because your body is not just flesh, it is instrument, it is signal. And when the soul begins to harmonize with its purpose, the body begins to transmit a field that no one around you can ignore. Suddenly, people look at you differently. They pause. They feel something they can't explain. Women become receptive, without knowing why. Children become calmer around you. Strangers either open to you or resist you without reason. Why? Because your field has shifted. You are no longer seeking. You are radiating. Your hands, once just hands, now feel electric. Sometimes they tingle. Sometimes they burn. Sometimes they move instinctively towards someone's pain. And something changes. That's not coincidence. That's not imagination. That is the mark becoming active. When you accept the mark, you don't just become spiritually aware, you become a beacon. And those around you, especially the spiritually attuned, feel the difference. Some will be drawn to you, others will avoid you, not because of anything you say or do, but because of what you now carry. And the most profound reactions often come from women. Not because you're more charming, but because something ancient in their feminine energy recognizes you. They may not know your story. They may not even believe in what you believe, but they feel it. They feel it in the space between words, in the way your gaze holds steady, in the silence that surrounds you, like armor made of light. Because now, you don't need to be heard to be felt. You don't need to be seen to be noticed. You are no longer asking the world for approval. You're walking as someone who already knows, and that knowing, that deep, silent knowing, becomes the very thing that awakens others. This is how the 1% move through the world, not as teachers, not as gurus, not as saints, but as transmitters. They don't speak much. But when they do, it lands like prophecy. They don't touch everyone. But when they do, healing begins. They don't prove anything, because their body is already proof. This is what your hands were trying to show you all along, that they are not ornaments, they are gateways. And now that the frequency has begun to rise in you, there is no turning back. But what happens when others begin to notice? When your very presence begins to provoke, attract, or disturb? In the next chapter, we'll enter the world's response to the activated mark, and why the feminine soul is the first to feel its power. She doesn't know why she noticed you. You didn't say much. You didn't try. You didn't perform, or seek, or chase. But something in her shifted, something ancient, something wild, something soft. It wasn't your voice. It wasn't your face. It was something she felt, before she ever realized she was feeling it. And if you are marked, if your hands have begun to pulse with the frequency of your calling, then you already know what I'm speaking of. Because the feminine doesn't respond to the masculine's effort. She responds to his essence, to the field he emits, to the grounded silence that wraps itself around her body like invisible fire. And nothing carries that energy more directly than your hands, not because of what they do, but because of what they are. Your hands are extensions of your spirit. They carry your past lives, your agreements, your authority. They are the first to awaken when your purpose stirs, and the first to transmit when you begin to walk as the man you were meant to become. And when your hands touch her, even lightly, even accidentally, she knows. She knows this is not casual. She knows this is not ordinary. She feels the imprint before the contact even completes. And suddenly something deep in her womb responds, not in lust, in recognition, because the sacred feminine has always longed for this encounter, not with a perfect man, not with a powerful man, but with a present man, a man whose hands are not trying to take, but to hold space, to witness, to awaken. When you are marked, your touch becomes invocation, not of desire, but of memory. You remind her of who she is, just by being who you are. This is why some women melt near you, why others resist you, why some open quickly and others run before they even know your name. It's not about what you did, it's about what you activated, because the feminine does not choose with logic, she responds to frequency. And your hands, when awakened, become living signals. She may say she doesn't know what she's feeling, but her body knows. Her skin knows. Her nervous system knows. That's why your presence feels different. Because it is. You carry the mark. And when a marked man touches a woman who is ready to remember, the entire world inside her begins to shift. This is not seduction. This is spiritual chemistry. This is energy recognizing energy. And if you've ever seen her eyes widen after a simple touch, if you've ever felt her breath change, her words stumble, her body soften or stiffen, you've felt the power of the mark at work. But remember, this is not a game. It's not a tactic. It's a responsibility, because your hands can heal, but they can also harm. Your presence can awaken, but it can also overwhelm. That's why only 1% carry it. Because only 1% are ready for the weight it brings. You've felt it your whole life, but never knew how to name it. You questioned it. You doubted it. You buried it under logic, religion, science, and fear. But it never left, because truth does not ask for permission to exist. It simply waits to be remembered. And now, something in you is rising. Not because I told you, but because you already knew. The sacred mark reveals itself in many ways, not always loud, but always clear. To the soul who dares to listen, maybe it started in childhood, that strange feeling of being different, not better, not special, just not like the others. You watched the world, but didn't fully belong to it. You felt things others didn't notice, the tension in a room, the sadness behind a smile, the energy behind someone's words. You were sensitive but not weak. You were silent but not empty. You were young but already carrying something ancient. And then came the hands. You looked at them, noticed strange shapes, lines that crossed with unusual symmetry, symbols that made no sense, but felt sacred, as if your palms held a story you hadn't yet learned to read. Sometimes your hands tingled, sometimes they burned, sometimes you placed them on someone in pain, and they felt better. Sometimes you touched someone, and they pulled away, as if startled by something they couldn't explain. And deep inside, you felt watched. Not by people, by something. Higher, like your life was being observed, guided, trained for something you couldn't name. These are not delusions. These are signs, confirmations, proof that the mark is real, and that you are one of the 1%. You've been tested more than others. Your relationships are intense. Your emotions are deep. Your path has been anything but easy. Because the marked are not here for comfort, they are here for impact. Your very existence shifts things, even when you're silent, even when you're alone, even when no one around you understands what you're carrying. You've had visions, dreams that felt like memories, synchronicities that made your skin rise, people who told you strange things, as if they saw something in you you didn't even see yet. You've lived on the edge of two worlds, the ordinary one and the one you're just now beginning to remember. Now you know. Not because someone told you, but because your soul has been remembering, line after line, word after word, truth after truth. The mark is not a myth. It is not a coincidence. It is not an idea. It is the evidence of a promise your soul made before it entered this world. A covenant, not written in ink, but in skin. A signature of the spirit, placed directly into your hands. And you've carried it all this time, through confusion, through silence, through pain. You tried to forget. You tried to blend in, but it never let you go. Because this mark is not a symbol of perfection. It is a symbol of calling. It doesn't say, you are better. It says, you are responsible. And now, you have a choice. You can continue as you were, ignoring what's been carved into your palms, pretending your body is ordinary, acting as if your presence means nothing, or you can step forward. Not with pride, but with reverence. Not to impress, but to remember. Not to chase, but to become. You didn't ask for this, but you agreed to it. And now, the time has come to honor that agreement. Not just in thought, but in energy, in action, in embodiment. So if you feel it now, if your body has been responding, if your hands feel different, if something inside you has been nodding all along, then this is your moment. Speak it. Type in the comments. I embrace the mark. Let it be your contract made visible. Let it be your soul's signature seen again. Let it be your moment of remembrance. And if you feel this path is yours, if this message felt like it was written just for you, then come closer. Join the gathering of the 1,000, the ones who were born to remember, the ones who are ready to rise. Subscribe now, not as a favor to a channel, but as a sacred act of alignment, a spiritual yes to the truth within you. Because what comes next belongs only to those who dare to walk marked, silently, powerfully, divinely. You are one of them. You've always been. And now the world is finally ready to feel what you carry. Until the next transmission, walk with your palms open, your heart still, and your spirit awake. You are seen. You are chosen. You are marked. See you soon.